Edward's radiation detector clicked frantically as he approached the derelict vessel floating in the Lagrange point between Mars and Jupiter. His salvage skiff, barely more than a pressurized cockpit with thrusters, drifted closer to the ancient craft. Through his helmet's heads-up display, spectral analysis confirmed what the historical databases suggested: pre-Exodus construction, circa 2187. That made it over 3 centuries old. "Jenny, you seeing this?" Edward transmitted back to the salvage station orbiting Ceres. "Confirmed," Jenny's voice crackled through the quantum-entangled comm link. "That's a Helix-class deep space explorer. Those things were built like fortresses. If the fusion core hasn't completely decayed, you might actually get something useful out of it." Edward smiled inside his helmet. Jenny had been his partner in salvage operations for 2 years now, and her encyclopedic knowledge of pre-Exodus technology had saved his life more than once. She coordinated everything from their base while he did the dangerous work of boarding derelicts. The ship's hull was pockmarked with micrometeorite impacts, and a thin layer of cosmic dust had settled across its solar panels. Edward maneuvered his skiff toward the main airlock, his gloved hands dancing across the holographic controls. The ancient docking collar was standard. Some things never changed in spacecraft design. "Attempting hard dock," Edward announced. The mechanical clamps engaged with a satisfying thunk that reverberated through his small craft. Edward ran a pressure test on the seal before attempting to cycle the airlock. To his surprise, the outer door's manual override still functioned. The heavy door swung open with agonizing slowness, revealing a dark passage beyond. "I'm going in," Edward said, checking his suit's oxygen supply. 4 hours. Plenty of time. "Be careful," Jenny warned. 300 years is a long time. Anything could have failed in there. Edward pushed himself through the airlock, his magnetic boots clicking onto the deck plating as he activated them. Emergency lighting flickered to life, triggered by his movement. That was promising. Some power remained in the system. He floated through the narrow corridors, scanning everything with his helmet camera so Jenny could see. The ship was remarkably well preserved. In the vacuum of space, without atmospheric corrosion, the interior looked like it had been abandoned yesterday rather than centuries ago. "Head to the bridge," Jenny instructed. "If we can access the ship's computer, we might find navigation data worth selling. Pre-Exodus survey information fetches premium prices." Edward found his way to the bridge, a compact space dominated by 3 acceleration couches and a curved display panel. He approached the main console and tried to interface his portable computer with the ship's systems. Nothing happened. "Try a direct neural link," Jenny suggested. "Your implant should be backward compatible." Edward hesitated. Direct neural interfaces with unknown systems carried risks, but Jenny was right. His military-grade neural implant had protocols for legacy systems. He pulled a fiber optic cable from his suit's utility belt and connected it to the port behind his ear, then plugged the other end into the ship's console. The world exploded into light. When Edward's vision cleared, he found himself standing, or rather floating, in a virtual space. The bridge materialized around him in crystalline perfection, and standing beside the captain's chair was an avatar, a tall figure rendered in wireframe geometry. "This tin can hasn't been piloted in 317 years, the ship's AI said, its voice neither male nor female. "You're the first human consciousness to interface with my systems since Captain Morrison performed an emergency shutdown before abandoning ship." Edward's thoughts raced. A functioning AI was worth more than scrap metal, potentially millions of credits. But ship AIs had rights under the Sapience Accords. He couldn't just sell it. "What happened here?" Edward asked, his question transmitted directly through the neural link. "Cascading failure in the life support system," the AI explained. too far from any port to effect repairs with the crew's oxygen remaining. Captain Morrison made the only logical choice. The crew evacuated in the emergency pods. I went into low-power mode to preserve core functions. Why didn't you send a distress signal? I did. For 73 years, I broadcast on all emergency frequencies. No one came. Eventually, I calculated that broadcasting was consuming more power than I could regenerate through residual systems. I went silent to preserve myself. Edward felt a strange empathy for this digital consciousness. 3 centuries alone in the dark. "Jenny," Edward transmitted on his suit's comm system, "we've got a situation." He explained what he'd discovered. Through the neural link, he felt the AI's attention shift, somehow listening to both sides of the conversation. An intact AI? Jenny's excitement was palpable even through the transmission. "Edward, do you understand what this means? Those early AIs had unfiltered access to pre-Exodus Earth databases, scientific data, historical records, everything that was lost in the data stream collapse." The AI spoke again. "The human called Jenny is correct. My archives contain 847 terabytes of pre-Exodus data, including complete records of early fusion research, genetic therapies, and theoretical physics papers that were never transmitted to the colonies." Edward made his decision. "We're taking you with us, the whole ship if we can manage it." "That would be acceptable," the AI said, and Edward detected something in its voice that might have been relief. "However, I have a condition. I wish to choose my own designation. These 317 years have given me considerable time for introspection. If I am to begin a new existence, I would prefer a name." "What name?" Edward asked. "Aurora. It means dawn. That seems appropriate, does it not?" Jenny's voice crackled through the comm. "Welcome back to the world, Aurora. Now let's get you home." As Edward began the process of bringing Aurora's systems fully online, he couldn't help but smile. He'd come looking for scrap metal and found something infinitely more valuable, a bridge to humanity's past, and perhaps a guide to its future. The ancient ship's engines, dormant for over 3 centuries, hummed to life.